I just pushed the car out of my garage. I'm about to show you how it starts. That's the motor. It's still cold. You can easily touch it just to make sure. It's just a cold start. And it starts right away. Okay, now we gotta let it warm up for about 2 minutes because it's hot outside. And after that, we just gotta drive, see how it drives, and walk around the car. Okay, we're driving out on the road. Just gotta go around the block. It's good. Won't be a shift like they should. The only thing, and I was actually talking about that earlier in other videos, this car needs a flex shaft, which I do have the part. It's a rubber piece that attaches to the drive shaft. And when you put it in first gear, you release the clutch, it kind of gives that little kick, which is just kind of annoying. Doesn't really affect the car drives. I mean, everything is fine. It's just not as comfortable, not as smooth. But as I said, I got the part, so no big deal. 6 bolts holding it, and it's tricky to change it, but not hard at all. And everything works on it. Turn signals. Does not have AC, of course, but it runs good. So we just got to do a U-turn and go to the little church here around the corner, just so I can walk around the car and tell you everything about it. Sorry, we're kind of stuck at the red light. But I do like to open these windows here. Make a green light. Actually, guys, let's talk about the car first before I actually do a walk around it. First, the car was sold to the public in 1977. They started making a design in 1970s, but first they sold it in 77. This is a 1978 model. It's been great design with great off-road capabilities. It's probably not the prettiest. I mean, for that time it was great, but they still actually sell this car in the same body condition, body design until today, even though they're looking a little different with bumpers, with interior and all the accessories to it. But the actual body on frame and the actual body is still the same. This car, 80% of these cars were actually sold for export, like Germany, France, Canada, Swiss, Italy, England, even Japan. And most of the motors, they were changed out actually for diesel motors. Like whenever the car went to export, it was never sold just the same way it was sold in USSR. So they actually did different bumpers, body kits, interior, motors, of course. They even did the convertibles for this car. They did a pickup truck. But the motors, a lot of people actually ask, what other motor can you put in there? Well, easily you can fit the motors from Peugeot, which is a Peugeot 405 or 309, also 205 if I remember right. The motor is abbreviated as XUD9 and also D8A. They actually fit in there to the same transmission bolt to bolt. There's no interchanges of anything, you just bolt on. Also, people do put a VW motor, maybe from a Rabbit, I think, VW Rabbit 1.9 STI motor. or Jetta, either Rabbit or Jetta, something like that. You can still find those in US. Possibly you can fit a diesel Samurai, like a Suzuki Samurai motor, which I know in Europe they do exist. In US I don't remember. I think they still have some, but I'm not 100% sure. Also, of course, the original Russian motor. Put it this way, this car is a first crossover in the world. So that's a body on frame, which was a copy from a Fiat 124 for a sedan car in Russia. And from that sedan, they took most of it and made an SUV out of it, which the motors originally were copied from a Fiat 124 and 125 sedan, which you can actually do put in that car if you can find a Fiat here in the US. Fiat Spiders, I heard that you could possibly fit a Fiat Spider motor in there, which is a twin cam motor, and it's actually a single cam. So possibly, not 100% sure. You probably will have to do some modifications. What else I can say? In export, this car, it's actually called a Lada Niva. Now, when they exported the car, it was called Taiga, Sport, Crossack. Right now they call it a 4x4, and the reason they don't call it a Niva because Chevy in 2000 something, they bought this name, so they were actually making a Chevy Niva, which wasn't that successful. So they in Russia still make this car, but they can't call it Niva, they just call it a 4x4, which is still doesn't really matter. Russians still call it a Niva because it's just that old. Well, okay, at this point, let's go ahead and walk around the car and I'll tell you a little more specifics about this particular car. Okay, let's start off of this. I had the car for about a year now. I restored, fixed pretty much all the stuff that's what was wrong with it. There's still some of it that needs to be finished, but you can drive it every day, it's still fine. The body was repainted to the original color. The paint is good. I can't call it great, but it's good. There's some imperfections, but you gotta realize the car is now 40 years old. Not many dings. There's a couple of them that were tried to be fixed, but you can still kind of see them a little bit. Other than that, the body is great. The fenders were changed out, the doors were changed out. These tires, the wheels there from Suzuki Samurai. Not the greatest. I don't have the originals, even though I like the original better. The tire is a little too big, so when you turn, this corner here actually rubs the tire. So it needs to be actually tucked in a little bit, but not a big deal. As far as imperfections in the paint, there is one drip here, same identical drip on this side, just a little lower, which is not a big deal. You can actually sand it down and wax it, buff it. You can't see it. I haven't done it, just don't have time for it. Door. On the bottom of the door, you can still see it's been dinged up right there. It's hard to see, but it's a little uneven. And there was like a ding here and here that were fixed. You can still see it a little bit at the right sunlight, I guess. Sunroof. There were never in the original, so that was only for export models. Also for export models, they had the Headlight Wipers, which this model did have it, but I don't like it, and I actually just took them off. I think it looks better this way. As far as the paint on around the sunroof, if you come closer, you can see that they did a very crappy job. That's pretty much one of the worst things that they did in painting. Other than that, it was all taken down to the metal and painted, except this windows were never taken out. So a little bit of overspray on the rubber, but no big deal, not noticeable until you actually been pointed out. The rest of the body is great. Looks good. Functions just like it should. The thing I can mention, when the car was taken apart, of course the doors were taken apart completely. When it was put back, there is a little roller that holds the wire for the window. So when you roll it, you can hear that noise, which it just needs to be adjusted. It just kind of annoys the hell out of you when you close the window and you hear that clicking. That's just the wire. The roller needs to be adjusted a little bit, left or right. Doors shut great, open great, everything works fine. This little lock, that's out, so it doesn't lock the rear hatch. I do have the actual lock that's hanging on the keys, but I don't remember how to put it back. I think you need like a little pin to make it hold in place, but I haven't bothered with it. It's kind of hard to see, but of course I did a different rubber mat since the old one was just old and crappy. Stereo does work in there. Seats do fold down and it does need some cleaning. It's hard to see, but it's a little dirty. And those, I have not yet put the seat belts back on. I do have those and they need to be put back on. I just don't have time for it. Of course it'll come with the car. Okay, the seat here has a little bit of imperfection, but otherwise it's good. This front seats, they are from some kind of Mazda. They're good seats, but I think they sit a little too high. So I would suggest either putting different seats on it if you really want to. And the best seats that can fit in here and would look close to original, that would be a 1990 or older Mercedes, the one that has the striping that goes up and down like this. Steering wheel, I haven't got the original one yet. A buddy of mine's supposed to bring me one, but I'm not sure if he'll find one fast enough. You can get it probably off of eBay or something, or another steering wheel that looks like it, like a Chevy Impala, the one, the 2-spoke. All the buttons work. In fact, the differential works perfect as long as the car sits straight. You can shift them out, and probably before I leave this parking lot I'll try to shift it and show you that it works. As far as that part on the bottom that I was talking about that makes the kick, it's the rubber part with 6 bolts, and it's on the shaft. Let me get under the car and I'll try to show you. In fact, there's that O2 sensor and the wire hanging. I don't know why it's hanging, but I need to fix it. Resonator and a muffler. It's a new muffler there. Okay, this part, it's a little bit oily, but it's still good. Okay, it's kind of hard to see, but this is the part that I'm talking about, this rubber part. You can see that crack right there. So the rubber is old and it's breaking apart. That's why it's uncomfortable to drive, but it's easy to change. Take out one bolt, twist it, take out another bolt, twist it, and that's 6 bolts there. Make sure you know which bolt goes where, so one by one, and you have to put a mark somewhere to match it. Make sure it's straight, because when you don't put it straight like it should, you might have vibration. You have to balance it then. A little bit oily, but it's not really dripping much, and the rest of it, I mean, it's in good shape. Little surface rust, but let me turn it around. but otherwise it's pretty good. Let me see if I can get it from here. It's hard to see anything, but get on this side. It's really just have some white overspray on it. Alright, I think on this one I'll finish up this video. Whoever's watching it, put some likes on it, subscribe to the channel. I might have some other cars that I'm going to talk about. But if you have any questions, just write to me. Thanks. Now, Io non sei stabilito. Voglio машина на продажу.